So, Sierra Leone.
11 years of civil war killed at least 50,000 people and forced 500,000 from their homes.
Diamonds, right?
Rebel fighters enslaved locals to dig for so-called blood diamonds.
Natural disasters.
We've just been to the site where the mudslide happened on Monday.
The number of the missing is still unknown.
A crowd of people had gathered near a fuel tanker that had been involved in a collision. A bus full of people nearby was completely burned.
Health crisis.
Go to the deadly Ebola outbreak.
The world is losing the fight against Ebola.
Rape and gender-based violence.
5-year-old Khadija Soko was raped and killed in Sierra Leone in June.
On this note, ladies and gentlemen, I therefore declare rape and sexual violence as national emergency.
What if I told you there is a different Sierra Leone than what the media has led us to believe? This is Sierra Leone. Good morning, it is day 4 and I feel very tired. Last night the room we slept in was like 100 degrees, there was no airflow, and I don't think I stopped sweating all night. So not the most ideal situation, but again, I knew that part of this experience would be a lot of moments of discomfort, including sleeping arrangements, and that's just part of the process. But we're heading out this morning, I believe 17 miles, so hopefully my body can continue going on and just make it to the next town so that then I can sleep into the afternoon and hopefully get some better sleep tonight. But I will check back in when we get to the next town. I almost just fell there and broke my entire body. So I'm gonna pay attention now. So we've been walking for about an hour and a half now, and so far today the roads have been very tough. There are a lot of spots where they are completely flooded, such as this spot. Not sure if you can see it, but there is literally no way across this road. It's completely flooded. So we're gonna try to figure out what to do and how we're gonna plan to get across without fully submerging our feet, because the big issue is if our feet get super wet and we continue walking, we'll probably get a lot of blisters and that'll slow us down long term. So we're gonna do some troubleshooting and hopefully figure out how to get across this pond. So the only way across is for us to hop on the bike and cross this little ravine and continue on our way. So hopefully I don't weigh down the bike and sink us. The infrastructure here in part of the country is really great. Look at this bridge. Wonderful.
All right, guys. Here we have beds of oranges. Genema, where we started the walk. So all of this is going there. Oranges. Probably heading for Liberia.
Yeah, what a car?
No car.
Oh.
No car. So we're just walking. We're going to Freetown. We started in Genema. Every day while in school. Oh, so they wear the white. Okay, so they have agreed for us to interview them. They walk every day 3 miles from this village to the next village where the school is, and they will wear plain clothes. The reason being that they don't want to be to get dirty when they are walking. So as a result, they wear their empty clothes and then they go. So, so Ufonga, the uniform, Unga. Yeah. All right. Then we are Yamama Pella. Why you boy? Uniform and Aluma. Ukiama bo. Kewu Domagami Unga. So when they are returning back from school, they leave the uniform as well, and then wear their ordinary clothes, and then walk back to make sure that they can preserve the uniform for the next day. Wow. Okay. So, school ita ulongwela. Gama mawajiwe wajiha koma we maisa wa fumbi. So they walk 3 miles, 3.5 miles every day because they want to get knowledge. They want to be educated. So it's a dedication that they have made for themselves, and we want to thank you. Abaika way.
Abaika.
Boy, go my way.
So yeah, that's very interesting hearing from those school children just about, you know, they walk 3.5 miles every day to school and then walk 3.5 miles home, which is about a 6-mile trek, which is kind of a far ways. You know, when I grew up in the US, I lived close to my school and I would walk, but it was no more than a half mile. And then as I got to secondary school, high school, I would take the bus, or I had my own vehicle to drive, which just is not often the case here in this part of the world and in this country of Sierra Leone. So it's very interesting to hear their stories and gain their perspective and see the true dedication that they have as young kids to get an education and to better their lives. And so I hope that we can begin hearing from more students, begin hearing from more community members, just about their perspectives on life here in Sierra Leone.
Good morning, folks. We're at Gegbema, and we started out this morning feeling very good. There were very less sleep last night, but we feel quite fired up. We only have 12 more miles to go to Joru, and we'll call it a day. But you know, the purpose of this walk still lives with us, and thank you very much.
We're a couple more miles in and we are now stopping to have some coconuts. Very excited. We stopped and rested just for a little bit again, and honestly today has been a bit tough. Not really my feet or my legs or my body. I mean, that's normal, I'm gonna feel pain, but my stomach has definitely began to adjust to the food here and having some pain. And when you are in this part of the world and eating these kinds of foods, when you go to the bathroom, things change a bit. So kind of experiencing that, and having that experience while walking 20 miles in one day is not often the most enjoyable or comfortable, but that's what we're here to do, is experience discomfort and continue on our way. Just took my second trip into the bush, feeling a little better, and all I will say is that last night at dinner I was warned not to mix the stews. We had an okra stew and a cassava leaf stew, and they said be careful mixing them. It might affect your stomach. And I was like, oh, no problem, it'll be fine. It wasn't fine. It isn't fine. I don't feel fine. But it is what it is. And, you know, in 40 or 50 days, I'll be back in the US and everything will be okay. So it's a temporary discomfort, but we're continuing on. Kumwi. That's all I have to say is Kumwi. Kumwi. Good evening. We have spent the afternoon and the evening hanging out in the center of town under a big pavilion. Today we did not do a community ceremony because the town chief was in Kenema, which is the next town over, so we didn't have time to organize it. But this afternoon I have been feeling a lot of low energy and I lost my appetite and I've just kind of been feeling a little sick. And I think it's either from the food I ate yesterday that made my stomach sick, or there is a possibility that I do have malaria again, but we're just gonna play it by ear and see how I feel tomorrow. But I'm grateful to be back in the tent and get a good night's sleep. I've had a hard time sleeping through the night because it is so hot over here, and where I live in the US, it's a lot colder and easier to sleep. So again, just a few adjustments that I have to get my body accustomed to as I stay here into the next weeks. But I'm looking forward to our walk tomorrow. We are walking from the town we are currently in, which I'll put the name right here, all the way to Kenema, which is about 18 miles, and then we'll be spending tomorrow, which is Friday, as well as Saturday in Kenema, and taking off Sunday for a 24-mile hike for the next 3 days in a row. So we'll have one rest day, which will be nice to get some logistics done, but then we'll be ramping right back up the next morning. But until then, I will check back in, and I hope you have a good night.
A few moments later.
So just as I laid down my tent, I was called back to the pavilion where we're sitting, and Hindalo explained that we have a little bit of a problem. The community has showed up here to the pavilion, and they explained that we came here today and we did not do the ceremony or the washing of the feet or the planting of the tree, and they had expected us to do that, and so they are now here waiting for us to do that, and we need to decide whether or not we're going to do that this evening, which it's about 8:30 p.m. right now, or if we're going to wait till tomorrow morning. The couple issues that we're running into is that if we do it in the morning, then we're going to run into an issue of walking during the daytime when it's very hot, and Hindalo says that he needs to get into Kenema by noon to reach the banks to take out money and cash the checks that we've been given by some of our sponsors. But some of our team is saying that we should do it tonight and get it done over with. But Hindalo is saying he doesn't want to compromise sleep and would rather get some sleep tonight rather than doing it. So we're discussing with the community right now what we should do, what they think is best, whether or not we do it now, tonight, or if we do it tomorrow morning around 8 a.m., which would then possibly compromise the time and duration that we would be able to walk into Kenema tomorrow. So I will check back in when we have a decision.
My suggestion is we'll do it in the morning.
So we have reached a compromise, and we are going to have the community ceremony at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. So I am going to head to bed and try to get a good night's rest, and hopefully everything will go smoothly tomorrow. The one thing that I'm a little excited about is that we do get an extra couple hours of sleep now that we'll still be here in the community. Most mornings we've been waking up around 3 to 3:30 a.m. and heading out and being on the road by 4. So that extra hour and a half of sleep will be super good, especially considering I feel kind of sick still. So yeah, I'll check back in tomorrow, and looking forward to the community ceremony. Good morning. We are in Joru. It is day 5, I think. I'm already starting to lose count. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It is day 5. This morning I feel like chopped liver. I'm sure I look very ugly. I mean, look at me. I look awful. But in a couple hours, I'm sure I'll look beautiful again. It just takes a little bit of time for me to wake up and get my beauty face on. But until that point, we are going to have the community gathering here behind me this morning. Last night I went to bed and I only slept for about 2 hours at a time before waking up and falling back asleep. That just seems to be like the theme. Hopefully as we continue, I'm able to get more consistent long periods of sleep, but if not, it is what it is. It will only last until the end of the walk, and then eventually I will return home and, you know, figure out what I can do to begin sleeping better. So it's only a temporary thing, so I'm not super concerned. Every morning I wake up too, my back really hurts because I think I had mentioned before, my rib and my back is out of place and it's popped out over the muscle, which is pretty awful, I think. It doesn't feel good. It feels like my back is broken, but you know, it is what it is, and what are you gonna do when you're in West Africa other than just push on and deal with it? But we're gonna have the community gathering this morning, and I'm very excited to hear from the community, and then as soon as we're done with that, we are going to head out towards Kenema, 18 miles. We will be heading out a little later, so we will get to Kenema a little bit into the afternoon, so we will be dealing with the sun, which might slow us down a bit. But nevertheless, I'm excited to get to Kenema. We will have done about 75 miles in a matter of 5 days, which is pretty ridiculous. That's a long ways. My legs are actually feeling great. My only issue is my back and my stomach. But again, those things are just things I can deal with. So I will check back in when we start the community gathering. As the washing of the feet goes on behind us, Hindala was explaining that through his conversation with a lot of the men and asking them to wash the feet of the women within this community, that there is a lot of masculinity ego, in the sense that a lot of men responded by saying that they think it is below them to wash the feet of the women from their own community. And this is just a common thing that we sometimes see in some of the communities, is that this like masculine mindset is deeply embedded within the community. And that's why we are here, is to bring that conversation to the table and to really engage men to say that this is not a thing to be looked down upon, but this is a sign of power from men to show women that we respect them and that we care for them, and that we do not want to continue causing harm to them in a form of rape or sexual violence. So it's been interesting here this morning to see the response from some of the men, kind of pushing back against washing the feet, while other men stepped forward and had no problem doing it. So our community gathering has just ended, and it was a very good one. I had some conversations with some of the men from the community, and one of them brought up the idea to me that although what we are doing is great and that we're coming to these communities, the 10 to 15 to 20 minutes that we do spend here washing the feet and having these conversations doesn't really do much, because he said at the end of the day, these issues of rape and violence against women, and especially children, will only continue, and that implementations of either a program or a pamphlet needs to be done. And last year when we did the walk, we began the topic of discussion around the idea of having these monthly chats with men called Masculinity Without Violence, to both be done with men in the community as well be done with children in the schools. And so I think that when we get back to the US, Hindalo and I and other people on our team really need to sit down and begin looking at what does masculinity without violence trainings look like, and how can we begin implementing those, because although the work we are doing walking village to village is very great and it is bringing a sense of awareness, I think that we now doing this twice have a responsibility on our part to begin going deeper with this walk and with the awareness that we are trying to bring, and having those conversations on a monthly basis so that consistency can come and that a real change can begin to happen in these communities. But now we are going to head out, walk 18 miles to Kenema. The team is just behind me getting ready. I'm going to put on some sunscreen so I don't get fried like a lobster like I have been the last few days, but I will check back in when we get on the road.